We're back, baby. It's the Daily Stripe, January 30th, 2023, the Jordan year. January is almost kaput. A lot of good football.
Nah. One good football game.
One good football game.
One not very good game.
Honestly, the more I thought about that Eagles-Niners game, the more disappointed I was. Purdy's injury robbed us of what could have been a very good game. Because by and large, it's not like the Eagles had so many explosive plays. They had a couple good plays.
But they actually had a lot of missed opportunities.
Hurts had a couple air mails.
He overthrew A.J. Brown. Obviously, there was the incredible Devonta Smith catch.
Which he almost overthrew.
Which upon further review, if 49ers had challenged it, I believe would not have been a catch.
Mm-hmm.
That was obviously an incredibly important moment early in the game. But really bizarre that Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson both get their elbows hit in almost the exact same way. And I think a lot of that is whether you believe that it would have been a game if Brock Purdy had stayed in, which I think at least it would have been somewhat close, the way that 49ers defense was playing. That Eagles front knows how to get after the quarterback, and I don't know if we've ever seen a unit that can do so at that
it's
level.
Just so many guys. I turned to you, and I'm like, their defense is so good. And you're like, why? They didn't do anything. And I was like, no, I'm not looking at what play they just made. I'm just looking at the names in the back. And there's just such a bevy of guys on that defensive line, and just in the entire defense as well. If you go top to bottom, all 11 guys that start, all guys that rotate in, strong players.
Yeah.
Easy starters on even the guys that come off the bench are starters on every NFL team almost. And they're losing. They lost Derek Barnett early in the year, one of their starting edge guys, and they replaced him valiantly. This Eagles team, to me, it's more unfortunate for them that the Chiefs are going to play them, because the way that Bengals offensive line played against Kansas City, especially in the early parts of the game, I think that Eagles defensive front would have had a field day.
For sure.
In my opinion.
I agree. I think Frank Clark and Chris Jones played tremendous in the game against the Bengals, but sticking with this 49ers.
And your boy.
My boy.
Karlaftis.
Oh, yeah. Yorgos Karlaftis and Dunlap got in there as well.
Our boy.
Yeah, former guest of this show. But I think sticking with the 49ers and the Eagles, it's a shame that when you only have two games to watch on a Sunday, that one of them is basically over, after a quarter and a half.
Absolute snooze fest.
Yeah.
That game stunk. And you turned to me after that game was kaput, and you said, is this the easiest path to a Super Bowl we've ever seen? And quite frankly, I can't think of one that's been easier.
And it's no knock on the skill. Again, we were just praising this Eagles defensive line.
Amazing.
Yeah, they've one of the best rushing offenses we've seen in a long, long time. And they were able to do that again, once this game started to get away from the 49ers. It was Gainwell, it was Sanders, it was Scott. All three of them, it was Hurts. All four of those guys got involved, just like they did against the Giants. But if you break it down, they get the bye, okay? Then they're playing the New York Giants.
Who are just happy to be there.
Absolutely, who they crushed.
Murdered.
I think the Giants over-under this season going before the season had started, before anyone had played a game, was 7.5 wins. It might have been 6.5. So if that's expectations of what that team was supposed to be
there. Yeah.
And Daniel Jones, yes, I think he definitely took a step up. We saw that he was able to take care of the ball this year for the most part, just like Josh Allen was able to when he was playing under Brian Daboll as well. That's a trend that has to do a lot with the coach and the player then buying in and executing on the skill set that they have. But by and large, no one's really scared of Daniel Jones going into a playoff game.
No. And I think no one was scared. Wasn't that scared of Brock Purdy? I mean, he gets hurt, and we don't really – it's kind of an incomplete.
Yeah.
I do think that Eagles team would have found
4 for 4, 100% completion percentage.
I think they would have found a way to win, no matter what.
I think so. I think if he stays in that game, you're looking to see Purdy make some really, really important throws that he didn't get the chance to. And Josh Johnson was definitely not going to cut it for them. And obviously, Christian McCaffrey, break in case
I mean,
of
they
emergency.
honestly might have
like,
been. They might have had a better opportunity to play McCaffrey at quarterback than Josh Johnson.
Maybe, but at that point, like, we knew that the Eagles were going to win. The Eagles are too good of a team
Oh yeah,
for a team like the 49ers to win with, Christian McCaffrey
Absolute
as,
blood
their,
in the
as their
water.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Who ran the ball really, really well, actually.
yeah.
And we had a debate earlier in the year between who was better, Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And I think your biggest knock against McCaffrey was availability.
It's my knock on everything, right? It's my biggest argument
Yeah.
for almost
You say
all
it till the cows come home.
Yeah, because it's the biggest. Whenever we argue about two players, we've argued about AD and Cat, which ironically Cat's been hurt this year, but it's always been best ability is availability.
I think from a talent standpoint, McCaffrey and Kamara are more comparable than AD and Karl Anthony Towns. Anthony Davis is a top 10 player when he's healthy.
I think Christian
That's pretty undisputable.
Christian McCaffrey is pretty undisputable that he's a top 5 offensive weapon.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if Kamara is.
I don't know if Kamara's top 10 anymore.
Yeah.
And before we get to the next game, I do want to say this.
But all that to say, okay,
Yeah.
so the Giants, they crushed them, and they end up crushing the 49ers who essentially aren't playing with the quarterback for 2.5 quarters of this game.
Yeah.
So pretty easy road to the Super Bowl for a team that is very much deserving of being in the Super Bowl.
Yes. Look, they were like the best team in the league pretty much the entire year.
Yep.
Now, the biggest travesty in that game, I'm not a New York sports fan.
This is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
You're not a New York sports fan, but you are a guy from New York.
I mean,
New York,
when
Boston,
the Celtics win the NBA championship, are we going to light the Empire State Building green and white?
It is
when
just
the Sox win, is it going to be
it is
like blue
written,
and red?
It is written sports law in the United States history. The teams from Philadelphia,
Hate them.
teams from New York, and teams from Boston all hate each other.
Yes.
Nothing will change there. So I have no idea why. I don't know who owns the Empire State Building.
Fired.
The Empire State Building lit up green and white. I was joking with you, and you said one of your New York buddies had already made the joke where it's like they have the lights ready to go for the Jets, but of course the Jets will never get there. Sorry, John.
You will never get this.
And so they had the green and white ready to go for the Eagles, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Our Believe in Giants host Carl Banks was like, "What is going on?"
Oh, it's pathetic. I mean, if
This
I was
is New York's national monument.
If I was, it's like it's arguably the United States is like it's like one of the top 5. When you think of the United States, what are the top 5 like monuments you'd think of?
I go Empire State Building. I go Statue of
So
Liberty.
you just went first with Empire State Building. It's like right
well,
up there.
it's on my mind too. I would say, and then like Washington Monument,
Yeah, okay. I don't even know.
Lincoln Memorial, right?
Oh, and Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, Rushmore.
Okay. I mean, the Washington Monument's a stretch. I couldn't even tell you what that looks like.
It's just a giant spire. It's just a
Yeah. The thing is,
Space Needle.
the Empire State Building going green and white for the Philadelphia Eagles
Fenway Park.
is a travesty.
It's
Like,
ridiculous.
I don't know who is to be fired, and I hate like taking away someone's livelihood, but fire that person. Like, Vince McMahon, you are fired. That is awful.
I just don't get it.
It's the Giants' biggest rival. They
You think
knocked
if
the Giants out the week before.
You think a Philly fan, an Eagles fan, would try and climb that building?
Like King Kong?
Yeah. They're trying to climb up all the light poles. You think they'd try and climb that?
Now, I would respect it if this was like an Eagles fan, like one of these like smart
Who
techie
like
dudes.
sneakily went through and
like
did it?
went in and
Yeah,
rigged up
props.
like the
Props.
lighting system for the Empire State Building. Yes. Then if that's the case, ultimate respect.
But then
Absolute
it's
power
also
move.
too easy. Like there's no checks and balances system where it's like, hey, we're gonna light up again a
Didn't
national.
Jesse Eisenberg do it in Now You See Me?
Did he?
I think so.
Now you see me, or Now You See Me 2?
I think it might have been the second.
They made
movie,
two of those
actually.
movies.
Yeah, but that was a complete gong show.
It was. Okay, let's move to this Bengals Chiefs game. Fantastic game.
Yeah,
Field goal at the end decided it. A lot of gripes on the interwebs about the officiating in this game, and I will say,
Start from the back though, because I don't. The Osai hit. You and I were both like, that gets called
it's that
every time.
I have nothing wrong with that call at the end of the game.
Love Osai.
The circumstances of what's happening in the game to allow the Chiefs offense to then progress 15 yards forward on that penalty. I'm interested on what you think about this. And then they get a 45-yard field goal instead of what would have been a 58, 60-yarder or something like that. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Severity of penalties determining how many yards they get. So obviously, like, roughing the passer is a 15-yard penalty. Unnecessary roughness is a 15-yard penalty. But certain versions of those penalties in and of themselves are more dangerous than others.
I mean,
what do you think about that? If like that Joseph Osai penalty ends up being a 5-yard unnecessary roughness instead of a 15-yard.
Because then it puts too much in the refs who we already don't trust. Like, we already don't
Making
think these
that
guys can
subjective.
Yeah, we don't think these guys can do their jobs already.
Well,
Now they're the judge, jury, and executioner. I mean, they kind of already are, but like at this point, there were certain instances, and I don't want to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes,
who was fantastic in this game.
His ankle clearly was bothering, whether he was like milking it a little bit or not. His ankle was bothering him.
Right? Does he just walk like that? Is the ankle hurting him?
His receiving group is by far the worst he's had. I mean, MVS had a great game.
Travis Kelce had a great game.
Yeah, I don't really include. I mean, I guess we'll include him because he's a receiver at
Yeah.
points, but like he's a tight end. Like I'm talking about the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
Mid.
And Hardman goes down. Tony goes down.
Yeah.
So Sky Moore has to be thrust into like the wide receiver 3 position.
Which ultimately, like, the Chiefs capitalized a few times in special teams. They had a few returns that really shaped the way.
Which that punt at the end, questionable block in the back. So it's another moment, right?
At this point, I can't be convinced otherwise. There has to be a penalty on every punt return. Somehow. It's just whether they want to call it or not.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious though. Like when a guy when he does block in the back and then he puts his hands up.
Yeah,
like that's the telltale sign. At least like when I used to play basketball, where a guy like reaches, slaps the guy's arm, and then is like, "No, I didn't do it." Guess what? You did it. Mm-hmm. Typically, that's the way it goes. In the fourth quarter though, I think there were 5 penalties against the Bengals, 1 against the Chiefs, 1 was a holding for them. Just little moments where like you hate to see a game play out the way that it did, right? With a matchup that great, with 2 quarterbacks who I think we believe Patrick Mahomes number 1 in the league, no question. Joe Burrow for me is number 2 in the league.
Twice.
Burrow.
Yeah,
that second interception essentially acted as a punt and got them down to the 15. So I wasn't too concerned with that second one. The first one I thought he forced that throw.
Yeah, but it was 3rd down. And I know we're saying, okay, it acted as a punt, and it's not like it's not like he turned it over, 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. It was a bomb, but they still lost possession. You would have been better suited had you gone for a shorter throw and try to get,
But here's the issue, though, that Joe Burrow had to deal with the entire game is because his offensive line was not up to snuff, and Spagnuolo schemed, and he crushed it. I mean, he stepped up when the moment was brightest. And
the way he used Nick Bolton, the linebacker.
The linebackers all over the place.
Yeah.
Really gay, too. Like, this team really, really played well on defense. They took advantage of not a broken offensive line, but certainly a bent and injured
Williams, Cap, the guys were out.
And they got to Burrow early, a lot on first down, and then they were in 3rd and 10-plus situations too often. So then, to me, I'm like, okay, you want to take a shot down the field? Like, we saw what he did on 4th, where he took the shot down to Jamar Chase when he was double covered. Incredible catch. He had to do that. He had to push the pace like that because otherwise they weren't methodically moving down the field. This Chiefs defense was playing too well.
I'm not disappointed in the way the Chiefs played. I respect their game. I thought Mahomes again had a great game. MVS had a great game. Kelce was awesome as always. Their defense was really strong.
Yeah.
And on special teams, no mistakes. In fact, they flipped the field a few times.
And Townsend had a couple of great punts that pinned him in.
He's a superstar.
Yeah, inside the 6-yard line.
So I don't want to take anything away from what the Kansas City Chiefs did. I will say, by and large, I am disappointed in the matchup. I think the Burrow and Hurts matchup would have been more exciting. I think this Bengals team is more exciting. And there's no merit behind this. There's no stat behind this. This is just me wishing that the Bengals had won the game.
For sure. I mean, you're wearing a Joe Burrow hat. Yeah.
They're more